I've clicked onto the global tropical overview for July the 24th, local time in the West Pacific 2023. As is always the case in these videos, the thoughts expressed here are mine alone, and when making decisions ahead of any tropical cyclone, especially ahead of Typhoon Doksuri, look towards your local weather office, local emergency management, and local tropical cyclone warning center. So across the tropics today, we are only going to be talking about Doksuri in the West Pacific, as this system is intensifying at a fairly significant pace as it heads towards the Philippines. Now, we've had a lot of change over the past couple of days since my last video in track. Remember last time I talked about how the general consensus for track was generally sort of an envelope like this, and this still is true today, but it's generally come on the southern side of this envelope. Yesterday, we were more on the central or northern side of this envelope, having a track into central or northern Luzon, or sorry, Taiwan. But today we've seen shift south, and we're looking at now a significant storm tracking towards the Luzon Straits, northern Luzon especially, and Taiwan as well, and even into China. Now, overall, in the big picture, we have a very impressive view with a low shear environment with general anticyclonic flow aloft here. Now, there is this upper level low as well, helping some of this outflow as well, though this upper level low is weakening due to the convection that you can see there associated with it. But even without that, this upper low helped it, and now this storm really doesn't need help. It's got anticyclonic flow aloft with the outflow expanding away in pretty much every direction, indicating that low shear environment, and you can see just the formidable core that's already built. Now, the system is forecast to intensify significantly as it takes a track, because it is really taking a perfect track for the storm. If you look at the tropical forecast points from the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, and you pay attention to this track here north of Luzon, I'll keep it on there, but you can see this track keeps it in the highest oceanic heat content available. Now, if the system were to deviate perhaps a little bit north, which could absolutely still happen, you can see the forecast cone does have an area extending out here to potentially leave a track window open to central or northern Taiwan. If it does do that, that does not mean that the storm cannot get very strong here. It may struggle a bit with this lower patch of oceanic heat content, but it does increase near Taiwan. And now, something that could limit it with the lower oceanic heat content is, this is the Pegasa forecast track. I'm just showing you this because of the large wind field it has. This is a very large system overall, and you can see that in the satellite imagery. And with the lower oceanic heat content, the winds ahead of the eye, because the winds are expansive away from the eye from a fairly significant distance. The center is here, and you've got tropical storm force winds here. If they're ahead of the storm by that much, it can, if the center's here, it can churn up colder water quicker if the oceanic heat content is lower. Now, keep in mind that the oceanic heat content, what this is a measure of, is the heat depth of the water. So you have warm waters at the surface, but how deep does that go? That's what this whole product is measuring. And what this indicates is that you have very warm waters. They're 29 to 30 degrees Celsius here, but they don't go too far deep. They're fairly shallow in general. So the system, if it does take a more northerly track, might struggle with that. But then again, these waters are 29 to 30 degrees Celsius, so the winds ahead of the storm may not be able to disrupt that water ahead of it enough to an appreciable level, and we would still see significant intensification, most likely on approach to Taiwan. I'm saying this because in central and northern Luzon, or sorry, Taiwan, I keep messing up those two names, it may seem like today's trends have been good, and they have been good for you all, but it is important to remember that this storm can still deviate to the north or to the south. And if the system does deviate to the north, you could still get a storm tracking your way. It's not the most likely scenario right now, but that window is still open. That has not closed just yet. Same case in Luzon. We've had a lot of changes over the past couple of days. Yesterday, it looked very good for you. It looked like the storm was going to go north of you, but now the system is expected to come right through you. And we could absolutely see a landfall here. Now, if we look at the current center with the current forecast cone, it looks like we're generally on track. We'll have to keep an eye on this to see exactly how does it deviate. Does it deviate at all from this forecast cone? Does it come a little bit further north? Does it come a little bit further south? Those will be key to figuring out exactly who gets what. In terms of the strongest winds, that is. As I showed you with that wind field, this is a large system, and we've already got winds impacting part of the Philippines, so even if this system stays offshore and comes here, you're still going to get typhoon force winds in northern Luzon. And unfortunately, it does appear that there is a very high potential here for a super typhoon, or very close to a super typhoon, being right after the Luzon Straits. And this is a very significant situation now. So if you're in the Luzon Straits in northern Luzon and then Taiwan, and you're looking at this and you haven't really prepared too much, you got to rush your preparations to completion. Even if you're still in progress, you got to rush them to completion. Time is running out here. You can see we've got about a day before the system actually comes through, and that's only the center. This, again, the wind field is very large, so you could probably get tropical storm force winds later today, local time. Now here's a signal warning map, and this will likely have updated by the time this video comes out. I'm recording this at about 4 in the morning local time, so this will likely have changed, and I'll leave a link to Pagasa, the Taiwan Weather Service, I forget their name of, the China Meteorological Service, and the Japan Meteorological Agency, and I'll leave links to those in the description below, as I have over the past several videos. But you can see signal 1 warnings for a majority of the areas under any warning right now. There is a signal 2 warning for a small portion of the central Philippines, and I expect maybe in the next update, but in the next couple of updates, more significant updates to this signal 1 warning, perhaps getting higher into the categories, as again, this could be a super typhoon coming through the Luzon Straits here. Now here's a Joint Typhoon Warning Center forecast, and you can see forecast of about 145 miles per hour here, and taking a general forecast cone or track similar to Pagasa here as it comes through the Luzon Straits. Now the track, as it comes through the Philippines, it does depict what the potential track further north could be. This could be, if it comes further south, it could have the storm come south of Taiwan, even further south than is forecast right now, and into southern China, and that could get a more significant storm coming into China. Well, if the storm comes on forecast, it could just get south of Taiwan, maybe come ashore. If it's a little bit further north or east of this cone, we could see the system come still into central or northern Taiwan. But it should be mentioned as well, for Taiwan, even if the storm is south, you can still get those strong typhoon and tropical storm force winds. And you can see with the high terrain in Taiwan, with the onshore flow that you would get with the storm tracking south, you can get significant rainfall. We've seen some pretty significant totals depicted out by modeling because of this higher terrain, and that is a significant possibility. Now, as for mainland China, the question there for intensity is exactly how much land interaction it does. If it does come into Taiwan with that very high terrain, it would likely disrupt it quite a bit. You would still probably get a weaker typhoon out of it, but if it comes further south, it stays over water, you could still get a significant typhoon coming in. So this is a very significant storm taking place, and really modeling is what I've been talking about today, just a small potential wobble that the system could take, so I'm not really going to show much of that. Now there is another system behind it, Invest 91W. We're not going to talk about this much today. There is some model guidance suggesting a tropical cyclone that could impact land in a longer range in the West Pacific, but again, this is long range, and we need to deal with Doksuri first before we even start touching Invest 91W. But stay safe in the Philippines, Taiwan, and China. I'll have future videos ahead of the storm, or ahead of the week, and ahead of the storm as it comes through. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching.